Welcome to Mint. I'm Malia Politzer. In today's edition of From the Newsroom, we are joined by Remya Nair. Welcome to the show, Remya.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Dr. Rupa Rege from the Bank of Baroda. Welcome to the show, Dr. Rege.
Thank you.
Today we're here to talk about the recently released inflation figures. Remya, my first question is for you. Can you tell us a little bit about how the recently released figures will affect the current macroeconomic scenario?
The inflation figures based on the wholesale price index that were released today show that inflation has decelerated to 6.87% from 7.25% a month ago. But what is worrying is that food inflation figures are still in double digits, and also the core inflation is again on the uptrend. Given that the monsoon is deficient, it could impact food inflation going ahead. Also, separate data that was released today, the trade data that was released today, shows that there has been a sharp contraction in exports. So along with the whole IIP numbers that were released last week, it does show that the macroeconomic situation is quite grim.
And Dr. Rege, can you tell us a little bit about whether the recently released inflation figures will ease the comfort of the banks to cut rates?
Well, it's quite a challenging situation for Reserve Bank of India because food inflation is still in double digits. Core inflation sequentially has gone up by 59 basis points to 5.44%. Deficient monsoon rains, have created the risk for further upward potential in food prices. But moreover, today's easing of inflation is also not very credible because government, it is largely driven by administered prices of fuel components. If you see world over globally, now crude oil prices have again firmed up. And domestically, the government is not allowing its pass-through to domestic fuel components. So inflationary risks actually have risen, but they have risen along with many other imbalances. So I think it's very difficult for Reserve Bank of India just to go by today's number and change the stance on monetary policy.
Remya, my last question is for you. Can you tell me how the sharp contraction in exports could affect this whole situation?
The contraction in India's exports has been much greater than what has been seen in imports. So it is worrisome because India's imports are relatively inelastic because they mainly constitute of fuel and gold. Gold imports have come off a bit, but fuel imports are not expected to slow down any further. So given the whole situation, trade deficit is likely to increase and it is going to exert pressure on our current account deficit. And India may find it difficult to finance its current account deficit out of the capital flows that come into the country.
So it sounds like the current macroeconomic picture is still quite grim. Thank you for those insights, Remya. And thank you for joining us, Dr. Rege.
Oh, thanks.
And that concludes today's episode of From the Newsroom. Thank you for watching and please stay tuned for next time.